level on August 1st. Is that what we should
be sending letters out on Monday having to do with the trade deal?
What's up, everybody? Long time no talk. I'm temporarily subbing in for my buddy who's on vacation enjoying some R&R. Now let's jump straight into this, because a quiet trade dispute just exploded into a global headline. India has officially rejected Trump's steep auto tariffs and is firing back with the move that could hit nearly $878 million in US goods. We're talking everything from electric vehicles to almonds. The backlash here is also spreading fast, and Washington wasn't ready for it. Now global supply chains are shifting, prices are rising, and everyday people on both sides are caught in the crossfire. So the question is, did this tariff gamble just push the world into a new kind of economic war? The quiet tension between India and the United States just turned into something much louder and a whole lot more serious. After the US imposed a 20% tariff on auto imports from India, the Indian government didn't just sit back and take it. Instead, India filed an official complaint with the World Trade Organization, signaling that this wasn't going to be brushed aside as just another trade dispute.
The deadline comes to an end on Wednesday. All right, let's bring in Ken Moriyasu. He's the diplomatic correspondent in Washington for the...
This move wasn't emotional, it was strategic. India followed global trade rules and took its fight straight to Geneva. The government proposed retaliatory tariffs on US exports worth around $878 million every year. Here's the thing, that number didn't just magically come out of thin air. It was carefully calculated to match the estimated losses that Indian auto exporters would suffer because of the new American policy. These aren't just any exports either. On India's target list are some pretty big American goods. Everything from almonds, apples, dairy products, and textiles to electronics and even electric vehicle components. This is a clear signal from New Delhi. If Washington's gonna hike up duties, India's gonna strike back with equal force. This isn't just posturing. It's a message that India won't quietly accept a hit to its economy without pushing back. These tariffs are about more than just money. They're about fairness, dignity, and the right to be treated as a serious global trade partner. India is flexing its muscles here, not with threats, but with action that follows the rules of international trade. The WTO compliant and the retaliation plan aren't just meant to hurt, they're meant to hold the US accountable. India's Commerce Minister, Piyush Goyal, made the country's position very clear. We don't sign deals under pressure. National interest comes first. And that's exactly the message the world got after India's negotiating team returned from Washington without giving in. There was no last-minute compromise, no halfway agreement. India walked away from the table the same way it arrived, standing firm. This wasn't about pride, it was about principle. Delhi is showing that it won't be rushed or bullied into any trade agreement that doesn't serve the needs of its people and of its economy. The US may have expected a softer response, maybe even some backroom bargaining. Yeah, instead it got a confident and calculated move that proved India's not afraid to stand its ground, even when the other side is a superpower. Now, at first glance, this all started over cars. But you dig a little bit deeper and it becomes clear that this trade clash is about so much more than just the auto industry. The US said the 20% tariff was meant to protect American jobs and manufacturing, especially in states like Michigan and Ohio. But ironically, the real pain might not hit India the hardest. It could actually hit American farmers and factory workers instead. Here's the thing. If India follows through with this retaliation, US exporters could lose more than $600 million in annual revenue. And look, we're not talking about luxury goods here. These are everyday essentials: fruit, dairy, fabrics, and electronics. Farmers in places like California and Wisconsin are already seeing their contracts either canceled or renegotiated under worse terms. And this is only the beginning. Meanwhile, Indian consumers are feeling the heat too. Prices for American-made cars are rising. Brands like Ford and Tesla are seeing fewer buyers walk into showrooms in cities like Delhi and Mumbai. In some places, prices have jumped by as much as 16%. It's also hitting electric vehicles especially hard, which is a huge blow for a market that was just starting to embrace cleaner technology. So no, this isn't just about tariffs. It's about global supply chains, about consumer prices, job security, and a growing feeling that both countries are headed into something much bigger than a simple trade disagreement. They're headed toward a collision course, one that could change how both nations do business for years to come.
Threat. He warns that the US will impose an additional 10% levy on any country aligned with what he calls the anti-American policies of.
What began as a tense exchange between Washington and New Delhi is quickly spiraling into something far bigger. Other countries aren't just watching from the sidelines, they're quietly getting into position. Vietnam, Brazil, Thailand, and even Japan are reportedly preparing to take similar actions if the US doesn't back down. These aren't just arbitrarily random names either. Each of these nations has strong economic ties to both India and the United States. And if they decide to follow India's lead, this isn't going to be a two-country squabble anymore. It could reshape how global trade works altogether. What's happening here is simple. When one major player makes a move, others pay attention. And when that move threatens their exports or trade balance, they start calculating all of their options. The US tried to apply pressure on India through auto tariffs, thinking it could protect American jobs and industry. But boy oh boy, it underestimated the ripple effect that pressure would create. Because in today's global economy, every supply chain is linked. A tariff in one place doesn't just hurt a company overseas, it disrupts the entire system. Take Vietnam, for instance. It's been increasing its role in global manufacturing and sees India as a key partner in the Indo-Pacific region. If India is being punished unfairly, Vietnam has every reason to worry that it could be next. Brazil, on the other hand, has seen its own agricultural exports threatened by shifting US trade policies before, and now it sees a chance to stand in solidarity. Or, at the very least, to make its voice heard. Japan also has long-standing auto investments in the US and export routes through India. Any sudden disruption in India's trade strategy could directly affect Japan's economic interests too.
A new tariff rate, potentially as high as that April 2nd liberation tariff rate, the one that freaked out investors around the world. Look, this is...
And here's the thing, everybody. These countries aren't just talking about responses. They're actively making deals elsewhere. India is already boosting ties with the EU and South Korea, and other nations are doing the same. Supply chains that once ran straight through American ports are now being rerouted. Shipping companies are changing routes, logistics firms are adjusting warehouse operations, and suppliers are rethinking maps. Global trade is being quietly rewritten in real time, and the United States might just find itself on the outside of conversations that it once led. While all of this plays out on the world stage, the people feeling the brunt of it are regular folks. In India, car buyers are seeing prices jump overnight. Brands like Ford and Tesla are becoming harder to afford, and that's slowing down the push for electric vehicles just as adoption was picking up speed. Dealerships in cities like Mumbai and Delhi are seeing fewer customers walk in. Sales are dipping, and the ripple effect touches car mechanics, salespeople, service workers, everybody who relies on steady business to make a living. Across the ocean in the United States, the pressure is just as real. Farmers in California, Wisconsin, and Michigan are seeing their export contracts delayed, renegotiated, or outright canceled. Products like almonds, dairy, apples, and lentils are being left out in Indian markets, and when those orders vanish, so do the jobs tied to them. That means fewer shifts in packaging plants, layoffs in shipping companies, and uncertainty for small business owners trying to stay afloat. So, what are your thoughts? Make sure you let us know in the comments section down below.